So, you finally got into your dream school, NYU Stern. You've watched some vlogs on YouTube about NYU, you've done some research about Stern's clubs and professors, but there's still one problem. You don't know what classes you need to take. Planning classes can be challenging at first because you're no longer in high school. So I'm going to be explaining what classes you need to take during freshman year at NYU Stern. Now, this can be a slightly long video, but it'll be full of important information and advice from personal experience, so make sure you watch all the way through. And timestamps and other important information are in the description below. To see what classes you need to take, we first need to look at something called the Curriculum Worksheet, linked below. This is a summary of everything you need to take during your 4 years at Stern. The school occasionally makes updates to the sheet, so you might see something different than what I'm seeing right now, but this is basically what it's gonna look like. Also, do keep in mind that this worksheet is for the BS in Business program, which is what most people are in. Other programs like BPE, BSMS, etc. have different worksheets, but since they're in the minority, I'm only gonna talk about BS in Business in this video. As you can see, the worksheet is divided into multiple sections: liberal arts, social impact, business tools, functional business, business concentration, global business, and electives. Freshmen really only need to care primarily about liberal arts and business tools, so that's what we're going to focus on in this video. The other sections are for sophomores and up, and don't concern freshmen. Let's look at liberal arts first. These are classes that aren't related to business, like math, science, and English, and you need to take them because, well, NYU says so. Starting from the top, we have Calculus 1, or higher level math. In the course numbers column here, you can see that all courses from Math UA 121 and higher qualify for the math requirement. So that's Calculus 1, 2, 3, linear algebra, and a lot more. I think a lot of people take math in their freshman year because their later years is kind of focused on business concentrations. For me personally, I can't say when I took math because I was able to apply AP credits and waive out. Now, if you don't know what that means, let me explain it right now. And trust me, this is very important. If you take AP classes in high school and you get a good score on the AP exam, I'm talking like 4s and 5s here, you can skip those classes at NYU. Let me show you what I mean. This is NYU's AP credit equivalency sheet, linked below, and it lists almost all AP courses that you can take in high school. Since we were talking about math, let me take AP Calculus as an example. I took AP Cal BC in senior year. As you can see here, if you get a 4 or 5 on BC, it's the same thing as taking Math UA 121, which, if you remember, is a course requirement on the curriculum worksheet. So by just getting a good score on the BC exam, you can instantly get 4 credits and no longer need to take math at NYU. But let's say you didn't take Calculus BC and only did Calculus AB. Well, unfortunately, even if you get a 4 or 5 on that, you're not gonna get any credits for it, meaning you still have to take math at NYU. This is the difference between Calculus AB and BC, so try to take BC if possible. Also, I know people who took the BC class in high school but didn't actually take the exam, which means their year of hard work all went to waste because they have to retake math at NYU, and they really regret that. So here's a tip: just take the exam. You already went through a year of hard work, so why would you waste all that? Just take the exam. All you really need is a 4. So APs aren't useless after all. I know some people in high school used to say that APs are completely unnecessary for university, but that's not true at all. I took 12 AP exams in high school, and since I got 4s and 5s on all of them, I was able to apply a lot of credits and waive out of classes that I didn't want to retake here at NYU. This allows you to save a lot of time because while other people are busy taking math or science, you can just take other classes and have a head start. That's exactly what I did. In my freshman year, second semester, I started my computer science minor. I had a head start on that minor as well because since I'd gotten a good score on AP Computer Science A, I was able to waive out of the intro class. If I hadn't taken the AP class, I would have had to take 2 more classes, the intro class and a prerequisite to that class. That would have delayed my minor by an extra year. Thanks to AP CSA, I was able to finish my entire minor by the end of sophomore year. You can also graduate early if you have a lot of AP credits, if that's what you're interested in. For example, let's say I applied all 12 of my AP exams. In grade 9, I took AP Psychology. In grade 11, I took AP Physics 1, AP Chem, AP Comp Sci Principles, AP Physics C, Mechanics, AP Cal AB, AP Lang, and AP Stats. And in grade 12, I took AP Cal BC, AP Comp Sci A, AP Micro, and AP Macro. Since I took both AP Physics 1 and C, I was allowed to apply only one of them. And since C is worth more credits, I chose that one. Applying all of these AP classes gives me a whopping 33 credits. That's a year's worth of classes saved, meaning I could have graduated in 3 years if I really wanted to. But since I didn't really want to do that, I only ended up applying 13 of the 33 credits. That might not sound like much, but that's still a semester head start. Also, applying credits has another benefit: quicker class registration time. Now, if you're not aware, freshman year class registration for first semester is absolutely notorious for being super competitive. If you watch my freshman class registration video, you'll know what I'm talking about.
There's waitlist and closed classes already. Holy shit. I was so quick. All 3 African classes are closed. It's not a myth. I thought it was a myth. No, it's not. It's not a myth anymore.
I kid you not. The class is closed in 5 seconds. The vast majority of students didn't get the classes they wanted. But here's the thing, your registration time is based on your credits. The more credits you have, the faster registration time you get, meaning you can get any classes you want without facing competition. That's exactly why my course registrations for the past 4 years here at Stern have been relatively chill compared to others. Seriously, you have no idea how much of a difference being several hours faster makes. By the time others are registering several hours later, all the classes they want to take are already closed because other people who had more credits already took the spots. Before I stop talking about APs, let me just give you some advice. Take AP exams that aren't related to business. This is because you can never waive out of business classes at Stern. For example, my scores for micro and macro don't matter because you have to take these courses at Stern no matter what. The thing is, I knew they wouldn't count anyway, but I just took them. I mean, this was during the pandemic when AP exams were online and they weren't even that hard, so yeah, I just took it for fun. And also as a teaser to kind of let me know what to expect at Stern. I mean, I studied for AP Micro in 5 days and I still got a 4. I'm still really proud of that. But anyway, I strongly recommend that if you're pursuing business, take APs in math and science if possible. I mean, I really like STEM in general, so I ended up taking a lot of AP STEM related classes, and that ended up saving me. There is a reason why people would purposefully not apply AP credits, and that is to retake a class to boost their GPA. For example, if you are really good at physics, you might want to retake physics at NYU so you can have a high grade and maintain a high GPA. This tactic makes sense. I mean, you can do it if you want. But personally, I would never do this because I just see it as a huge waste of time. And I know it's an intro level class at NYU, but honestly, it's probably harder than an AP class in high school. All right, let's talk about liberal arts again. The next class is Commerce and Culture. Simply put, it's an English class, but related to business. You read books, you watch movies, and you write stuff about them. Some examples of books and movies that we covered in class are Convenience Store Woman, Parasite, Blade Runner. These don't even sound related to business, I know, but trust me, the professor will somehow find a way to tie them into the curriculum. Notice how it says first year fall here? When I was first registering for classes, I was confused at what that meant, so let me just quickly clarify something. In university, classes are typically taught for only 1 semester, unlike high school where classes are taught for the entire year. So what would you take in the spring? Something called Business and Society over in the Social Impact section. This class is basically Commerce and Culture round 2. You read more stuff, and you write stuff about it. Again, these are basically English classes, so get ready to write a lot of essays. I personally hate essay writing, so you can just imagine how that went for me. The next 2 classes are Text and Ideas and Culture. You'll see why I'm grouping these together. Text and Ideas is like a mixture of history, philosophy, and English, just all combined into one. At least that was the case for me. It depends on what topic you take, and there's a lot of topics you can choose from. Some examples include utopias and dystopias, the Renaissance, the arts of noticing, fascism, humor and laughter, subversion. The wide range of topics is actually insane. The topics change every year, so by the time you're registering for classes, it might be very different than what I'm seeing right now. I took something called Antiquity and the Enlightenment in my 2nd semester. And no, I didn't choose it for the topic, I just chose whatever fit my schedule the best. And there was so much stuff to read to the point where I just didn't read like half of them. I just read summaries online, and yeah, that's how I did the class for the entire semester. Don't do what I did. I just got really lucky because a portion of the course involved Greek mythology, and I know Greek myths very, very well. So when essays or exams rolled around, because I hadn't read half the materials I was supposed to, I just always chose the topics related to Greek mythology and just wrote about them. It was great. Culture is very similar to Text and Ideas in the sense that there is so much to read as well. But for culture, there are 2 options. Cultures and Contexts, which is taught by NYU College of Arts and Science, and Global Cultures, which is taught by NYU Liberal Studies. You can take one or the other, not both. I don't think the school that it's being taught by really matters. Cultures and Contexts is very similar to Text and Ideas because it has a wide variety of topics to choose from, like cultures of energy and the era of climate change, ancient Israel, contemporary Latino cultures, and a lot more. Global cultures, on the other hand, is limited to only a few regions like Africa, East Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. I ended up taking African cultures in my first semester. My first choice was actually East Asian, but it was closed by the time I registered, so I had to take African cultures instead. So to summarize, I took both Text and Ideas and Culture in my freshman year. And I'm just gonna say right now, this is not a popular choice among Stern students at all. People thought I was crazy for taking both of them during my freshman year. Why? Because these classes, especially Text and Ideas, are infamous for tanking your GPA. So people who don't want to risk their GPA would take this much later in junior or senior year. I mean, I know seniors who are taking Text and Ideas right now. They do this because by junior or senior year, they usually have an internship offer or even a job offer. So they don't really care if their GPA goes down at that point. But I'll give my reasons for why I think it's better to take them early. These classes are very writing heavy. You have to write a lot of essays. And I'm not gonna lie, when you're here at Stern for 4 years, you're low-key gonna forget how to write essays because they don't teach you how to write essays in business. You barely have to write any essays when you're studying business. When do you learn how to write essays? In high school. So I personally think it would be much better if you just took it fresh out of high school. You might be saying, but if seniors usually take Text and Ideas, that means I'll be competing with seniors. Isn't that a disadvantage? No, I'm saying that could actually work in your favor because these seniors haven't written eloquent essays in years. You might actually be better off because you just came straight from high school where they actually taught you how to write stuff. Besides, it's a writing class, not a business class, so seniors are gonna be as clueless as you are. And here's the thing, junior and senior years are usually for focusing deeper on your business concentrations, which means classes usually get harder. Do you really want to take Text and Ideas with all your other hard classes? No, it's better to take it in freshman year while you still have relatively easier classes and your life in general is more chill. And actually, Text and Ideas is one of my highest grades here at NYU. It actually boosted my GPA. People genuinely can't believe me when I say that, but it's true. I had a pretty lenient grader who gave me 100 on an essay, which is completely unheard of. I mean, I thought essay graders usually just nitpicked something, whatever they could just get to deduct points, but it wasn't the case here. I also got a really, really good score on the midterm, and the final, well, it became optional. This happened because the TAs who are usually in charge of grading the exams, they went on strike, so the professor just made the final optional.
You will receive the same grade from your midterm exam for the final exam. What? It's a miracle. It's a miracle. I got a 97 for my midterm. 50% of my entire grade is a 97. Oh my god. I'm so glad I was slacking off today.
So I genuinely think there is a stereotype about Text and Ideas being too hard. Honestly, it's not that bad. I guess it really depends on the kind of person you are. If you like to suffer early on, then do what I did. But if you like saving suffering until the last possible moment, then I guess senior year is your answer. And no, you can't apply AP credits to waive out of this, so you are forced to suffer. The final class in liberal arts is natural science. Like math, people will most likely take this in freshman year just to get it over with. As a reminder, I waived out of science using my credits, so I don't have any experiences to share. But NYU science classes are basically the same as AP classes. You got bio, chem, physics, envi-sci, psychology, etc. Chances are you're already taking an AP science in high school, so just get a good grade and waive out of natural science. It's a great shortcut. And another tip, if you're doing well in AP Physics 1, and if you're also comfortable with AP Calculus, I suggest you take AP Physics C, Mechanics, like what I did in grade 11. AP Physics C involves very basic stuff from AP Calculus AB, not even BC, and a very minimal level at that. So if you're taking AP Physics 1 and Calculus AB, Physics C is like a freebie. And also that works for NYU because Physics C is worth 5 credits, but Physics 1 is only worth 4. Alright, enough with liberal arts. Let's move on to the business tools section. These are the basics of the basics that will set the foundation for your future at Stern. Starting with Cohort Leadership Program. I am not gonna lie, I have no idea what the purpose of this class is. Stern might have thought the same thing because this class is pass or fail. You don't even get a letter grade for this. That also means it's 0 credits, but it also meets only once a week, so it doesn't hurt that much. It's such an easy class. There is no homework. You just attend the sessions, just participate in the class activities, and that's about it. Then you'll pass. The point of this class basically is just like introducing you to NYU and you meeting new people in that session. This class takes place in the first semester. If I remember correctly, I was assigned to a certain time slot, so I had no freedom to choose. So you better hope that you get a very good time slot. Unfortunately, my session was on Friday. If you're asking why that's unfortunate, well, Stern classes, they're rarely on Friday, so vast majority of Stern students have a Friday off. They have a 3-day weekend. This is one of the perks of being in Stern. So having a Friday class means you no longer have a 3-day weekend. The next class is Microeconomics, and no, you can't wave out of this using AP Micro. AP Micro is useless at Stern. You can either take Micro with Algebra or Micro with Calculus, but there are prereqs to both. The prereq for Micro with Algebra is either SAT score of 670 or higher, SAT 1 subject score of 650 or higher, ACT math score of 30 or higher, AP Calculus AB/BC score of 3 or higher, IB math higher level score of 5 or higher, or Algebra and Calculus or Calculus 1 or higher. On the other hand, the prereq for Micro with Calculus is Calculus 1 or AP Cal AB/BC score of 4 or 5. I took Micro with Calculus because I heard that the algebra version was more qualitative and involved more writing, while the calculus version was more quantitative and involved more numbers. So if you like writing, take the algebra version. If you like numbers like I do, take the calculus version. The calculus version ended up not even having that much calculus anyway. The next class is statistics. Like Micro, there are 2 options for it. Simply put, you can either take the 1 semester version, which is 6 credits, or the same thing divided into 2 semesters, which I call the 4 and 2. Basically, it's a difference between faster or slower. The 4 and 2 essentially spreads out the same content from the 6 credit version over an entire year. I took the 6 credit version in my first semester just to get it over with quickly. And I think a lot of people do this because I've never met anyone who took the 4 and 2. Remember, unlike high school, finishing classes in 1 semester is sort of the norm in university. The 6 credit class isn't that bad. The only downside is that it meets 3 times a week, while most classes meet only twice a week. But look at the other option. Dragging statistics out for an entire year is just depressing. But if you get a 4 or 5 on AP Stats, you could potentially waive out of the 4 credit portion of the 4 and 2. The only catch though is that you have to take a proficiency test. If you pass, you can skip the 4 credit semester and only take the 2 credit version for 1 semester. If you don't pass, you can't waive out of it. The point is that regardless of your AP credits or whatever, everyone has to take the 2 credit portion of AP Statistics. Now, since I got a qualifying score in AP Stats, I guess I could have taken a proficiency test to try to waive out of the 4 credit one, but I chose not to because at this point, I had forgotten a lot of AP Stats because I took it back in grade 11, so I thought it'd be a good idea to just start all over again, just refresh my memory. And finally, we're on the last class of business tools, Principles of Financial Accounting, or PFA. The earliest you can take PFA is freshman year, 2nd semester, because the prereq is 1 semester of classes at Stern or NYU. So a lot of people take this in their freshman year, 2nd semester. I personally waited until sophomore year, 1st semester to take it because I was busy with other classes. It honestly didn't matter too much because a lot of my peers also took it at the same time I did. There's this really great professor for PFA though. She is absolutely great at teaching, so I really hope you get her. Obviously, I can't say her name, but she has a great rating on Rate My Professors. You will know if you get her. And that brings us to the end. I've covered all classes you can take in freshman year. The other classes in the worksheet, like Social Impact and Functional Business Core, are available only to sophomores and above. There could be some exceptions to Functional Business Core, though. Notice how it says at least sophomore standing. Generally, that means you have to be a sophomore, but technically, that just means you need as many credits as a sophomore would. So if you had a year's worth of AP credits, you could apply all of them and you would be at sophomore status despite still being a freshman, at which point you could sign up for these classes. But other than that, there's little reason to care about those other sections in freshman year. The other alternative is just taking electives. Electives are used to complete a minor, a CAS second major, a second Stern concentration, etc. For example, me starting my computer science minor in my freshman year, 2nd semester, falls under the elective category. I also took a Stern elective called Decision Models and Analytics in that same semester, which happens to be another class that people usually don't take in freshman year. I seriously don't know what's with me taking stuff in freshman year that a lot of people wouldn't, but it's proved to be useful. These electives can be from any school. In fact, a minimum of 20 elective credits have to be non-business related for Stern students, so it's a good opportunity to pursue your interests. You don't have to take electives in freshman year, but it is an option to consider. I would prioritize finishing most of the business tools and liberal arts sections first though. Cool, thanks for watching. Like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe. I'll see you later.